we visited the oldest tequila distillery in Los Altos, Centinela. I reached out to my friend Sergio, who is the chemist in the distillery, to see if they would be open for our documented visit. Fortunately, the owner family said yes, so we could come and share this unique and awesome experience with you. Not a lot of people know that Centinela is actually open for visitors. Just reach out to them via phone or social media and they will be more than happy to assist. Well, the tours are typically in Spanish, so you may need someone to translate for you. The distillery is conveniently located just at the Libre Mandamiento, which is the circle road around Arandas, so if you're staying in town, it should be a maximum 10-15 minutes ride from there. As you arrive, you will need to register and leave your ID in exchange for a visitor card. Needless to say, prior appointment is required, as is for pretty much every distillery in the Los Altos region. Once we had the formalities out of the way, we were led into the distillery compound. The distillery estate is very well taken care of. As we arrived at the internal gate, we were greeted by our friend Sergio Hernandez, their in-house chemist, and Edgar Fonseca, who is the nephew of the owner Don Pepe, and last but not least, Mario, who is an assistant to Sergio. We had quite a team. First things first, Edgar took us on a ride through the estate in a multi-seat open-air car. First, we took a quick ride up to where the final products are being bottled. Then we went to see the terrace area where they hold events, and also there's a nice lake around it that they created to get a cozy and fresh ambience for it. We spent some time there just chatting and enjoying our beautiful surroundings. After the introductions, we returned to the main building. As from our previous visits, we know that this is the area just in front of the building where they drop off the harvested agave to be cut and get ready for the oven. Unfortunately, this day there wasn't any production, as they explained to us that there is a maintenance day for the distillery. Nevertheless, luckily we can show some videos from previous visits, so you can imagine when this huge area is filled with tons and tons of agave. It's actually really crazy. And it's breathtaking. The biggest we've seen so far. We took some quick photos in this nice area, of course, and then we headed to the building. They explained some of the history as we entered the production area. Usually Centinela is busy, and when I say busy, they are very busy. They rival the capacity of the old distillery of Cuervo, La Rojeña, which, by the way, we already did a video of. True to that, I have never been to anywhere else where I saw more agave than at Centinela. Now, you may have been wondering, well, I don't get to see that many Centinela bottles where I live. So let me explain. Centinela is the owner of the brand Cabrito. In Mexico, it is extremely popular, one of the top 3 brands actually sold, typically after Cuervo and Sauza brands. Cabrito is a unique brand, as in it is very affordable even for a Mexican budget, but the distillery is still making all the effort to create the tequila in the most traditional way with brick ovens and pot stills. We started the tour by climbing up to the side of the machinery to see their massive roller mill, conveyor belt system that transfers the cooked agave from the big ovens. So they were doing maintenance, and it gave us the opportunity to enter their massive 60 tons capacity brick oven. This oven is huge and is loaded from the top. We were explained the process in quite some depth, which was very interesting, and the smell. The empty oven had a wet earth smell to it, which makes it into the product, which is a distinction between the horno and the autoclave made tequilas. Then we went to the fermentation area where they have a massive capacity for fermentation. We checked out the fermentation area which usually has some mosto formulating. So we got to see it empty with the pipes that provide the oxygen exposed, which is vital in the early fermentation stage. After the fermentation, we went to see the stainless steel pot stills. From Sergio, we got a comprehensive explanation about the distillation process. We were told that they have an all-women staff operating those stills, which I found fascinating. Quite a few of the local distilleries will tell you one of the key components to their success is their staff. Most of the staff, they have been working there for over 10 years, in some cases for decades. They are one of the few private distilleries who actually have a decent container to collect the heads. Due to having to balance larger volumes with consistency and quality at the same time, they are aiming for a cleaner, clearer, less fatty and minerally flavored profile through proper filtrations and cuts. It was very interesting to learn about all of these. Then, before leaving to the barrel room, we stopped for a moment at a sign that is outside the plant to learn a bit more about Centinela's history. The sign states the year 1904. That is the official year when the distillery was officially recognized. However, much like many other distilleries of the old times, they had been operating as a taberna and registered since 1888. This makes it the oldest distillery in town and in the region. And we were also told that they use natural gas. It is more expensive, but more friendly to the environment, to the staff, and it just doesn't color the walls to black, so they don't get to paint everything quite regularly. Then came their warehouse. Nothing that we've seen before. This barrel room is truly awesome. This is the biggest barrel room you get to see in the industry. Edgar argued that there's a chance it is even bigger than Cuervo, which is a possibility. And in any case, the barrel room at La Rojeña, the one we could get to actually see, didn't have this many barrels. They have 12 million liters of barrel capacity. We were informed it is so at all times they have adequate inventory, and it also allows them to naturally blend their tequila, and instead of using coloring, they can select the right barrels to get the right color. This is a really cool place. You can tell it was designed to please anyone who steps their foot in. Professionally arranged barrels, cozy aisles, lighting, everything you need for a great photo shoot. It is customary for the locals to take pictures here for certain celebrations like weddings. No wonder why. This place is truly unique. The occasional water vapor coming from the ceiling makes it even more sort of mystical and cool. After the barrel room, we were invited into the special private bar / tasting room. First, we got to watch their documentary, which even won Best Business Demonstration Award at the Cannes Festival in France. True to that, the film did start a little bit slow. I'm going to be honest here. But then it picked up and it was really enjoyable. It was quite artistically done. No wonder the French award. Then we were truly ready to taste some tequilas. We sat down at the bar and we tasted their whole tequila lineup, all carefully poured to separate tasting glasses, and it was absolutely professional and talked a lot about the business. Sergio has a very peculiar way of tasting tequila. First, we were only smelling, and only once we got through everything, we got to taste the tequilas. So first smell, everything, and then taste. Quite unique method. I have to appreciate that, and I actually understand the idea, because then you would get to sort of have this same sort of feeling all over the expressions, because it's made of the same Blanco tequila. It was very interesting to note how different each tequila smelled. When you really focus on something, lots of interesting things can come out. especially with a guy like Sergio. By the time we did the smell tests, we had 6 different tequilas nicely lined up in front of us. Well, if I counted it right, you can tell they really do care about the tasting to be done properly. Number 1, Eterno. They have a fairly new product, which is a Cristalino called Eterno. Now, traditional or artisanal producers sometimes even call it a scam product. However, there's a certain type of consumer who simply likes to drink smoother type or style tequila. So they filter the extra añejo. That's it. Even in a traditional tequila drinker town as Arandas, it became a hit and is one of the top tequilas consumed by the locals, especially for parties. Now, it wasn't anyone's favorite at the tasting, but I have to say that it was dry, and since it was filtered extra añejo, it actually maintained quite some body. I was very much surprised by that. Number 2, extra añejo, 3 years of aging. Then we tried the extra añejo, which was a very complex, very interesting expression. We identified ripe fruits, banana, red apple. I would even say grilled pineapple apart from the usual barrely notes. A very decent extra añejo. Third one, añejo, reposado, and the blanco, all the normal wine. Then from the añejo to the reposado and blanco, the progression was very interesting. From the ripe fruits, we got to transition to the greener, citrusy, fresh fruits like grapefruit and green apple. A very solid lineup, if I have to say that. Clásico Blanco. And we got to taste the Clásico, which had a massive amount of agave to it, and it was easily my favorite. It is the secret, by the way, that Clásico is cheaper than the normal side, but actually it has a better objective quality and is made using a process that is more expensive and less efficient to reach this traditional style. I actually felt like the Clásico is a very much underrated tequila. And then number 5 was the Cabrito for the US market. This is a very simple but decent tequila. It is meant as a 100% agave version of their Mexican Cabrito, and it should work perfectly in a nice cocktail, let's say, as it was designed for that purpose. We had some nice chats about the industry and business. According to my wife, I told exceptionally a lot. Well, sometimes it happens in good company, I guess. Anyways, then we shook hands and said our farewells about 5 hours or so after we arrived. It really was a very comprehensive tour with lots of explanation, information exchange, and simply just having a good time. As we were heading out, I did notice them grabbing quite some bottles, only to realize at the car those were meant for us. This was a very nice touch. We didn't expect it at all. And of course, I now have to say we may now be very much biased. Lots of thanks for these anyways. So would I recommend visiting Centinela? Yes, very much so. It is a distillery you can conveniently reach from Arandas. It is the oldest and biggest distillery which still operates in the old school ways. And well, the barrel room alone is just crazy. I always enjoy my visits, and I find Centinela to be a very much underrated distillery. But then, as usual, I may be biased. Sergio, their chemist in charge, is a good friend of ours, and he's one of the few professionals we always get to learn something from. Cheers.
Y hablaba yo del cine mexicano. En aquel momento no se cortaba colas ni cabezas. Entonces, pues sí, era una bebida alcohólica, pero ese producto generaba, aparte de una fuerte resaca, una fuerte cruda, generaba el feo aroma y el feo sabor. Feo aroma en el organismo, en el cuerpo, y el feo sabor en la boca. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que hacían? Tomar el tequila con limón y sal.
Okay.
¿Sí? para quitarse ese feo sabor.
Ah, ok, sí, sí, sí. Claro.
Hoy día, la mayoría de los tequilas están limpios de estas circunstancias. Entonces, el tomarlo con limón y sal es una receta, ¿sí? Ya no una necesidad.
Claro.
¿Sí?